All right, hello everyone. I hope everybody had a great lunch. And thank you all for inviting us to present our RFP for the Fort Lauderdale Aquatic Center. In this presentation, we are super excited to show off Michael Phelps' Construction's expertise in renovation, precast construction, as well as new construction. Before we start too much, let's get into our meeting, our project team. My name is Joseph Matos, project manager.
My name is Manny Verde, senior estimator.
Hello everyone, my name is Agustin Hernandez, the safety manager.
And thank you for having us. My name is Matt Forney, senior superintendent.
In addition to the wonderful gentlemen you see up here, we also have a project engineer, field engineer, and area superintendent that are just as awesome as the rest of us. First, we want to talk about our 45 years of construction and the relationships and the previous projects we've done. First, let's start with the Florida Aquatic Swimming and Training Facility. This was a FINA-accredited aquatic facility, and we worked with Weller Pools, our contractor, and Councilman Husaker, our designer. The team on the right were project team members from MPC that worked not only on this project, but is going to be on the FLAC project as well. So we're super excited to bring this previous relationship to this new project. Moving on to one of my favorite projects is the sea lion and puffin habitat at the Florida Aquarium. This super unique project was a demolition and a renovation of an existing habitat. And on the project, we got to work with WSP and Cartera and Associates, our respective structural engineer and architects. During this time, both of these firms demonstrated their ability to adapt to any scenario they found. And we developed a beneficial relationship that we are super excited to see them on the FLAC project once again. Moving on to our last project is going to be the Miami Science Museum and Planetarium. This massive precast sphere, which is the focal point of the entire building, was constructed by our subcontractor, Gate Construction. And they did an amazing job at paying extreme attention to detail with all the compound curvatures of the sphere, which we are looking for them to once again perform and do their excellent work on our 27-meter dive tower. And I want to pass the presentation over to our estimator, Manny, who's going to be discussing our estimate for the project.
Thank you, Joseph. Now the estimate, or like my mentor likes to say, the root of all evil. So here you see FLAC's total cost of $43,405,227. Now broken out into this donut chart, you have its respected percentages. Those percentages are broken out into the respective values located on the right-hand side. Our contracted work is going to consist of 63% of this total project cost. And then our self-performed work, which is going to consist of cast-in-place concrete and shotcrete, is going to be 13% of this total cost. General conditions would be 15, contractor's fee would be 4.5, and then bonds, insurance, and then odor contingency is going to be 4.5%. Within this chart, you're going to see our total cost broken out into two separate percentages. And the reason for that is because it represents the two phases. Phase one is going to be a little bit above $36.6 million. And then phase two is going to be a little bit above $6.7 million. Now with that being said, I'm going to pass it on over to Augustine, who's going to be going over safety.
Thank you very much, Manning. Hello, everybody. I'm going to be going over 4 different sections for safety today, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the first one. Here at MPC, we have a zero accident safety culture, which is our #1 priority. And in addition to that, we implement a lot of training for mental health as one of our top priorities as well. We understand that having those small conversations is going to have a big impact on it. You don't have to tell everybody, but you have to tell somebody. And that's going to allow us to get our employees or anybody who needs the help for the EAP's Employee Assistance Program. In addition to that, we also have our Safety Award Program where we hand out some DeWalt tools. We also have raffles, swag, and some barbecues that are pretty damn good. Moving on to the next topic, we're going to be moving on with the weather and public safety. We want to limit the amount of exposure as much as we can to the elements. And for that, we have built relationships with some of the trade partners in the area. For example, Best Tech, which is located within an hour of the site. They're going to help us mitigate some removal of like wet drywall or insulation. And for the exposure for the public, we have the boat show that occurs in October. It's a fantastic event. If you guys haven't been there, you guys have to come check it out. And to mitigate those hazards, we're going to implement all the safety requirements for the public, and we're going to have an MPC employee that's going to be there monitoring the area is going to be informing the people about your guys' project, and it's going to be a great opportunity for people to see why you guys selected MPC. Moving on to the next topic, we have fall hazards, which is the #1 hazard that we have identified on the project. We're working with the large pool excavation. We have the 27-meter dive tower, the buildings. So we're going to have good training. What does that mean? We're going to have fall protection, how to wear the harness properly, use the suspended trauma straps, what to do in case of suspended trauma. And in addition to that, we're going to be implementing additional controls, self-rescue packs. We're also going to be having some JLG equipment like the Toucan 26E, which has fantastic safety features. Moving on to the next item, there's levels to safety controls, and we're going to be focusing on the administrative. This is one of my favorites. We can outline the indoctrination video, the meetings that they have to go to, and our disciplinary action for safety. Because we're very detail-oriented here at MPC, I always like to say, if it's not on paper, it's vapor. So now I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Matt Forney for the schedule and site logistics.
Thank you, Augustine. So we're looking to receive our notice to proceed on March 15th, 2024, and we're going to immediately begin buying out our demolition contractor and getting our demolition permitting through the city, since that takes the critical path early in the schedule. From there, demolition, moving through all of the pool foundations and excavation, and superstructure of the buildings takes the critical path. And that gives us a final completion for phase 1 of the project on November 5th, 2027. From there, we're going to give the owner a 14-day grace period where they can assume operation of their new facility before we mobilize to begin construction on phase 2, which has an NTP of November 22nd, 2027. After a 341-day calendar day duration, we have a final completion for phase 2 on March 30th, 2029. Moving into some of our site logistics planning, we have our auger cast piles, which are super important for starting the project effectively. It's kind of sequencing these so that we can facilitate pool construction and excavation as early as possible is important, since there's over 600 piles on this project, and some of them are 18 inches, over 60 feet deep, really big piles that we need to knock out early in the schedule. Moving forward, we have the concrete placements. As we're self-performing all the concrete on this project, how we sequence it and our crew flows are going to be super important toward the success of the concrete. We are currently planning to do competition pool foundation slab first, then we'll move into dive pool slab seal while concrete at the competition pool is curing, then back to walls on competition pool, and then back to dive pool for the foundation slab and walls. As we move into the buildings on the next slide, they kind of flow with a similar pattern back and forth upon completion of competition pooled wall curing. And that really just ensures that we're able to keep one crew on site that's familiar with the project and have a vested interest in the quality and the happenings of this project. Moving forward, as we begin dive tower erection, this is a super critical sequence of work, and we just kind of wanted to express how we're looking to attack this as we use our man booms, our LR 1200 crawler crane to get all this precast up into the atmosphere. Moving forward, we take along demolition along that southern half of the project. We're turning over a lot of the project to the owner, and we're taking our site fencing up 4 feet to the existing pools. Since that is a code requirement, we have to have 4 feet on all sides, and then we're going to be using plenty of signage to designate which access points are for construction traffic. As we move forward, we get into some of the logistics. As we have this small site, it's going to be super important that we have minimal material laydown on site and that we have a clean site to facilitate the construction of this southern building. And then we're going to have a final completion on March 30th, 2029 for this project. So I'm going to go ahead and hand things back over to Joseph, who's going to summarize why Michael Phelps Construction is the best contractor to lead this project.
Awesome, Matt. I love those site logistics slides. They're honestly the best. So why choose MPC? What makes us different? Who are we? So we are a local and experienced contractor that's been serving the Fort Lauderdale greater area for 45 years. This experience has allowed us to actively pursue diverse projects and increase our portfolio and knowledge. This allows us to remain and be adaptable with every situation we face. We also like to actively self-perform work, such as the concrete and shotcrete you see on the FLAC project. This allows us to maintain our own quality control project and keep a competitive price for you as our owner. We also have a 0.7 EMR rating and are super proud to say we are an ABC STEP Platinum recipient. In addition, we are an ENR Top 30 contractor in Florida. And with all that being said, I want to thank you all for hearing us out on our presentation and RFP, and would now like to open up the floor to any questions you all might have.
Didn't see your plan for temporary power, temporary usage for water. What can you elaborate on what your plan is?
Absolutely. So if we go back to the first site logistics plan, our temp power is located in the northeast corner. We're going to have a power skid there, and we're going to be putting all of the buildings on temp power via that skid, so that when we are doing all of our excavation and utility relocation, we don't have any utility strikes, and we can really minimize those risks. In terms of water, during the demolition phase of the project, we're going to be using the fire hydrant water. We're going to get a tap from the city, and that's going to allow us to keep all the demolition waste wetted and have water on site for demolition.
Thank you.
Within your general conditions, you guys carry cost for a hazardous abatement review. Can you walk us through your plan if you do come across hazardous and abatement materials?
From a safety perspective, that is a great question, and we're going to be working with Best Tech, which is located, one of the trade partners that we're going to be working. They're located about 53 minutes from the site, and we're going to be reviewing their certifications, their submittal, and we're going to have a safety control plan for that. Obviously, we're going to be looking at the inspections and setting out those areas that are indicated. We've worked with them before, and they have done great work.
Thank you.
From a quality standpoint, do you guys have anything in place to ensure that, the AHJ guidelines and any regulations are being met?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And honestly, it goes back to our 7-step quality control process. We have identified every critical aspect for quality and making sure we have past inspections first try, so to not delay and have rework. So step number 1 is going to be our buyout, and this is our buyout meeting. And in this meeting, we're going to be discussing and finalizing the contractor's scope of work and making sure they understand what they're buying out, as well as what we are expecting and how they should perform. Next is going to be our coordination meeting, and this will happen maybe 3 months or 4 months before they actually get on site. And in this coordination meeting, we're going to be identifying things like sample submittals, mock-ups, and any risks or items that the contractor views that should be mitigated before they start working. And it's kind of just an early analysis of how can we prevent things later on. And then next we have our sample submittals. And this is going to be reviewing the submittals, and once this is passed by our OAC, we're going to submit for procurement per the specifications. And then it'll be an initial inspection after work has started, and this is going to happen throughout the entire course of the project, and this is done by our entire project team, because we are all responsible for quality. So by having our entire project team monitor and make sure work is being done and tested per our guidelines and the specifications, we can ensure this. Next is going to be our final inspection, and this is going to be with our IOR. And we're going to walk the IOR with our project team or our area superintendent or senior superintendent and make sure the proper testing is not only done, but passed. And if so, what can we do to rework it or fix it? And then also we keep lessons learned. We believe in innovation and constant adapting throughout all phases. So before this project, we've had 45 years of lessons learned and how we've been able to adapt to learn to get to this point. So by using this experience of the FLAC project, we can further that as well.
So prior to the bid addendums that came out, your schedule showed a substantial completion in June of 2027. With those bid addendums, you're now looking at a substantial completion date of almost 2 years later. Is there any opportunity in your guys' minds, I should say, that can pull that forward a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we would like to propose bringing phase 2 into phase 1. The RFP noted that 6 months after is when the owner would be able to award that contract. And so we're really hoping that we can pursue that option. Since 6 months in, we're going to be wrapping up demolition. We could keep our demolition partner on site, go and attack that southern building that's existing, and then move into our auger cast piles all in a single mobilization. In terms of going vertical, we'd probably phase that in as soon as we wrap up competition pools and have that the leading edge of the building construction, since that is the tallest and biggest building on the project.
I have a question for the estimator. Where do you see the biggest risk for impact from inflation before this project's bought out?
The biggest risk for inflation before this project is bought out, we try to minimize that from the very beginning. And my project manager could elaborate on that too. But we try to minimize that whenever we're contracting work. We try to lock them in at 60 days for the price and then lock it in during the duration of their contracted work.
And kind of piggybacking off that, the biggest risk for inflation that we can foresee is going to be our pool system pumps, as well as all electrical items, as these have very long lead times and nowadays are very hard to get. So as this is a very long duration of a project, prices change in years. So keep an eye on that. We also hold we hold the price of the trade partner's bid for 60 days, as well as requiring them to maintain the price throughout the duration of the project. And any further or major cost escalation that could be detrimental to our trade partner or us or you guys, we would ask for your participation in releasing that 3% owner contingency to help work it out in between.
We found out yesterday we might have some budget challenges on the job. What type of value engineering ideas do you guys have?
So as far as value engineering ideas, we noticed that incorporated into the deck of the pool, we have these drainage systems, and we would propose that a slotted drainage system be incorporated because, one, it's aesthetically pleasing and it looks really nice to the eye. And then number two, it'd be little to no maintenance. And then also another thing to add to that would be galvanized rebar. Utilizing regular rebar inside the concrete within the pool, implementing galvanized would help reduce any type of cracking later on due to any water penetration.
We got notice that there's tropical storm force winds that will hit the site in about 36 hours. Walk through the steps that you will take to secure the job site for these winds.
Yeah, so in these type of conditions, we have a weather bank built into our schedule, 71 days, and it allows us to take time to prepare for these events and then the event and then respond to the event afterwards. So kind of in our preparation phase, we want to stop all work and immediately begin readying the job site. All of our spare material is going to be going into connexes, it's going to be secured down, or it's going to be removed from the site so that those tropical storms can't pick it up and damage anything on site or any of the surrounding property. If we have our crane on site, we'll be laying our crane boom completely down and making sure that the wind can't have any sort of influence on that crane and potentially impart some forces on it that could either blow it over or move it around. And then just having time at the end of the storm to recover the job site, reset the job site so that effective work can begin is going to be important as well.
Thank you.
I would like to add to that as on the safety component. If you look at the site-specific safety plan, we identified weather as one of the main hazards, which is number 5. So in addition to that, we're going to be spotting out any holes or changes in elevation that could be hidden with the water afterwards. And we're going to be able to identify those routes so that we could avoid holes, stripping, or actually equipment falling into that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you see as your biggest challenge on this job, construction phase-wise?
Yeah, you know, I'd say our biggest challenge is a lot of the schedule is on critical path. We have a really big duration that it's going to be running through, and there's a lot of work in congested zones. And kind of from a safety perspective, we have to break that out and hit zone by zone by zone very methodically so we don't have people working over each other and we don't have super trade stacking going on. And so with all the schedule on critical path, a push is going to push a lot of the activities since they're all kind of reliant on each other for that linear path. So that's probably one of the biggest risks that we see at this time.
What are you doing for safety when the boat show comes into town? What's your preparation to ensure, one, you don't have any unwanted visitors, and if someone does get on site, it's possible, what are the precautions you're taking to ensure that no public is harmed?
That is an excellent question. That is one of the main public hazards that we have identified. So to begin with that, we're going to do some great housekeeping. We're going to have MPC workers that are going to be attending the show. They're going to be monitoring the area. We also have privacy screens, and we're going to be controlling the dust control prior to the boat show. We have the hydrant available, so we're going to be able to mitigate that. And in addition to that, we have the signage. We're going to be looking at our logistical components for traffic controls as well. And we kind of see this as an opportunity for MPC to show off our dedication to safety and why your guys' decision was one of the best. Thank you.
Additionally, we do have schedule durations for the boat show. We have it built into our schedule as a holiday, so we're not doing any sort of major concrete pours or any activities that require a lot of off-site influence that could be obstructed by the traffic from the boat show.
So while we're talking about boats, you brought up the public hydrant several times to keep dust down, which is awesome. What about all the cutting, welding, and elevated work that's going to be happening on the dive tower? Do you have in your contingencies to cover damage to those boats that are parked at the marina, or is that going to fall on us as the owner?
We don't have any contingency for that, but we're not planning on damaging any of the boats. We really believe we can have the proper controls to make sure that nothing goes off that dive tower and hits anything or any surrounding property. And we're very confident that we can keep everything on the dive tower local and away from any surrounding property.
Can you all talk through your material management plan? So if you've taken into account any off-site material storage, or if you plan on just having just-in-time deliveries?
Yeah, so for phase 1, we are just going to be having just-in-time deliveries. But for phase 2, if we can't tuck that in earlier in the schedule, we are carrying cost for a lay-down yard off-site, just because it's so condensed and we need that space to keep material.
Thank you.
Does your schedule include any weekend work or shift work for any specific reason throughout the duration of the project?
At this time, our schedule does not, but if there is any sort of extenuating circumstances where we need to go to weekend work to maintain the schedule duration, our team's willing to do that.
With your guys' expertise, are you guys seeing any labor shortages or have any concern with that with any of the trades? And if you do, what is your plan to overcome that for this schedule?
Yeah, so having all of our self-perform crews is super important to drive the schedule because we know we can count on them. Our schedule is very linear throughout. We have concrete work going on throughout over half of the schedule, so really being able to drive it through our own company and our own self-perform is going to be super important. And then working with our trade partners, understanding any complications they have with staffing, and being able to lean on others is also going to be critical for project success.
With that, our time for Q&A has come to an end. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, everybody.